Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. The division championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Access to Democracy. I'm your host, Steve Francisco. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch our program. We have a very special program for you today because we are going to be talking about our host, the studio that is the home to Access to Democracy, Eagan Television. It's my pleasure to welcome to our program today Hailee Boston, the manager of Eagan Television, and Josh Sibley, who is the community producer. Did I get that right, Josh?
That is correct.
Correct
Yes.
title. So I believe I was saying to you, Hailee, before we began, I think this is the first time in the history of Eagan Television that we've ever had a program on Eagan TV about Eagan TV. Is that correct?
That is correct. You know, normally Josh and I are used to being behind the camera, so this is a little different for us to be in front this time.
You were a little nervous today, but I think we've calmed you down here.
Yes, we'll see.
So Hailee, tell us about yourself. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up originally?
Yeah, so I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I lived there until about 2011 when I moved up to Minnesota to go to the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. While I was there, I got my degree in communications with a minor in studies in cinema and media culture. During that time, I actually had an internship at a news station back home during the summer in Milwaukee, and an internship at a news station doing one of their morning talk shows. And that's really what inspired me to pursue video production from that point. So I went back to school, focused on some video production classes, and that was my goal from there. So,
And how long have you been the manager of Eagan TV?
Yeah, so I actually started at Eagan Television in May of 2016, and I started in that role as production assistant. Then I moved to programming coordinator. After that was senior producer, and then October of 2022, I became the manager.
Very good. Josh, you have, we could say, very local roots right here in Eagan.
Yes.
Tell us about your background, where you're from, where you grew up and went to school.
Yeah, so I grew up in Eagan. I was originally born in North Carolina, moved here. My dad was a pilot for Northwest, now Delta. Moved here, and then I always had an interest in filmmaking and video production, so I took some classes, like a class that was shot in this studio. So last time I was behind this desk was 16 years ago. Graduated in 2009, and then I moved to Chicago for Columbia College Chicago, and I got a degree in film and video, and moved back home because, you know, college money broke.
Right.
And was looking for a job. I worked at Best Buy for a little bit, and then got a internship at North Metro Television up in Blaine, and that was my first introduction to community television and all of that. And then I worked for the city of Burnsville part-time for a year. And we actually share a production truck with the city of Burnsville. So that's kind of how I fell into the role at Eagan Television. They had an opening for a videographer editor, and I started in September of 2016, so 9 years, just like Hailee. And after that, became the community producer because I was the one who knew how to run the truck.
Great. And you drove the truck too, I trust?
Yes, it was a smaller truck at that time, but yes, now it's a big truck, but yes, and I still drive it every once in a while.
Yeah. Hailee, give us a brief description, if you would. What are your duties as the manager of Eagan TV? What do you do?
Sure. So one of the things that I love about my job is every day is a little different. Some days, I'm in the office and I'm working on spreadsheets, trying to figure out the budget, trying to identify what our equipment needs are. Other days, they may need me to jump in at a sports shoot and run camera. You just never know. Other things, I'm involved in identifying our outreach opportunities. What kind of classes can we provide to the community? What kind of volunteer opportunities can we provide? It's just a really nice, space, and I really enjoy being here.
And where does the funding for Eagan Television come from? Tell us about the difference between commercial television and community television.
So with community television, the main focus is the community. And so it's content that's made for you, by you, is kind of the fun saying that we like to say. So any of the programming that you see on our channels is going to be hyper local. As far as our funding goes, so with commercial television, their revenue comes from advertisements. With us, it actually comes from PEG fees and franchise fees. So the PEG fees are what you'll see on your Comcast cable bill. Franchise fees are what we're paid through from Comcast.
So you do not get, Eagan Television does not receive direct money from the city of Eagan, taxpayers, or from the state of Minnesota.
That's correct.
Because of this arrangement for your funding. Yeah. And different from commercial TV, again, as you mentioned, because you don't rely on advertisers necessarily. But we should say that our particular program, Access to Democracy, we do have sponsors, which we're very proud of, and the fees that we take from that, we're volunteers, those of us who host the program, myself, Bill Raker, other hosts that we have. We're not paid, we're all volunteers. Our crew, except for the Eagan TV crew, are also volunteers too. We have sponsors, and the money that we take from that helps pay for people like Avi Mashar, who is helping us with post-production, getting our programs up on the website that we have, and making sure that the program is accessible to the community. Yeah, very good. So let's talk a little bit about where viewers see our programs. Like right now, I suspect that many of our viewers are watching this program. If you live in Eagan, what channel are you watching right now?
Yes, so you're going to be watching Channel 15, which is our public access programming. So shows like Access to Democracy, Behind the Game, Writer's Corner, all community producer-led programming found on Channel 15. We also have a slew of programs from stations around the state, as well as around the country as well. So a nice little variety there, getting a little of entertainment, cooking, health, all that kind of fun stuff. Channel 16, that's our government programming. So we have our city council meetings, Parks and Recreation, Planning Commission, all of that can be found there. Channel 20, we have our community events. That's where you can find ETV Sports, graduations, concerts, the 4th of July parade. And which is where Josh, his expertise comes in there out on those shoots. On top of the TV channels, you can also find us on social media.
And which sites on social media would you find our shows?
Yes, so we are located on Facebook and YouTube. Now, Access to Democracy has their own YouTube account, so you have all your episodes programmed there. But we do advertise and talk about our volunteer programs on our social media channels. We also are available on Roku and Apple TV. So that's kind of our big goal, is making sure that we're accessible in where our viewers are, whether that's on TV or online.
That's really great, really important point too for viewers to understand, that we're accessible not just on Channel 15, that we're accessible on your computer or on your phone, on these different social media websites as well. And Say a word, Josh, about how we share our programs. We don't just broadcast them on Eagan TV, but some of our programs are shared with other community TV stations, aren't they?
Yes, they go out to 35, I believe. Yeah, 35 different communities.
Including this program, Access to Democracy.
Yes.
So
and
you can be
Writers'
living
Corner.
in Duluth, Minnesota, or up in northwestern Minnesota or southeastern Minnesota, and you may be able to access this program
Yeah. you
on
can-
your local community TV station there.
Yes, absolutely.
Do they give credit to Eagan TV, by the way? I wasn't sure about that. When community TV stations in other parts of the state, you broadcast our program, do they credit Eagan TV for being the home facility?
Yeah, so
Do we know?
we put a disclaimer on there on the front end that says this program was recorded with Eagan Television. We also mentioned, it's producer led, so any of the content on the program, that's on the producer's responsibility. We also have our bugs on there,
Right.
so any sort of like tagging to just make sure that we still have that little bit there to link it back to us here at Eagan
Right.
TV.
And there is this disclaimer that the views expressed on these programs, we sometimes have guests who express opinions. We ask them their opinions. That's the point of doing the program. Sometimes the moderator or host may interject an opinion too. But those are not necessarily the opinions of the city of Eagan or of Eagan Television, for that matter, correct?
That is correct. Yes, we have guidelines that we set out for our program. So that includes, no defamation, no lottery information, no indecent material, copyright. So we have that in place on our end as far as policies and procedures go. And then from that point, it's on the producers to determine what they do with their programming.
So Josh, Eagan Television, tell our viewers where we record this program and where we used to be. We've made a move within the past year or so.
Yeah, Steve. So we are actually located in Eagan High School right now, which we have a great partnership with, and thanks to Paul Saxton, who kind of runs the studio here, letting us be in this studio. And we used to be in Thomson Reuters, and we had a great partnership with them for 15 years. And then that ended when they downsized, so we were looking for a new place to go, and Hailee really helped us find work with Paul Saxton to get this studio. And it's been tremendous. We have it's a state-of-the-art studio. Guests are coming in and they're just like, this is amazing. And I loved Thomson Reuters, but our studio was kind of a black box, and
Right.
having this set has just been phenomenal.
And we made the move here, I believe it was May of last year, is that correct, Mark? Or-
March.
Yeah,
March of, so it's been a year.
year.
March of 2024, we made the big move from Thomson Reuters here to Eagan High School. And I have to say, as a host of this program, and for our crew and our other hosts, it's been a great move for us. As you say, we have state-of-the-art equipment here. How many cameras do we have here? Tell us about that.
I think there's about 5 that are in here, which is, we had 3 at the previous studio, so we've added some new cameras in here. There's jib cams and all sorts of things. It's to the point where the school can actually go do some of their productions in the theater across the hall there, and we can still do our show. We're not having to share those resources like we would at Thomson Reuters.
Right. And because we're in the school too, you mentioned Paul Saxton, who is on the faculty here at Eagan High School, and we hope to have him on as a guest actually with a student at some point in an upcoming program. But tell us about this studio and the students here at Eagan High School. They have an opportunity to learn in this studio about TV production, right? Say a word about that.
Yeah, so they have a program called Eagan AM, which I think sometimes you can see parts of it in our set. And they do that on Thursdays, and I believe it's live, and I think they go on YouTube. I'd have to check with Paul, but they go on YouTube, and it's a broadcast. It's a professional broadcast. It looks like the news,
That
just
is
done by high schoolers.
by the students,
Yes.
right? With his guidance.
Yes, and they have a sports report and everything. So they do stand-ups. They have some big guests they have on too. I'd heard they've had Natalie Darwitz and just local hometown heroes that have appeared on the show, and I think they're up to, I'm probably not right on the 700, 800 episodes, and they've been running since the 90s.
That's really something. And, not to state the obvious, but not every high school has a facility like
No.
this. And the set that we use here for Access to Democracy and for other programs here at Eagan TV, I believe I've heard it was the old CARE 11 set that was donated to Eagan High School. So that's part of the reason that when we do programs here and other shows that are broadcast here, guests are often, as you said, quite surprised when they see what a great facility we have here.
Yeah, this is an amazing facility. I mean, I honestly can say I would not be where I am in my career had I not taken the class with Paul Saxton when I was in high school.
Say a word, if you would, about some of the remote programming that you do, that obviously not every program that's on Eagan TV is produced in this studio, that you have the ability to go to mobile locations. You have a truck with equipment. Say a word about that.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to speak on it?
Yeah.
Josh, our community producer, is a little bit more involved on that part there.
A little bit.
A
little bit, yeah.
A lot involved.
We do 150 live events a year. So we broadcast varsity sports for pretty much every sport here at Eagan High School. And we do all of their home games, and occasionally, if we can make it work, on a away game at Eastview if we can. But we have a mobile production truck, which I mentioned we share with the city of Burnsville. And we use that to broadcast football games, soccer games, and big playoff games, our 4th of July parade. We go out to local churches and cover like the Eagan Women of Note concert. But our bread and butter is ETV Sports, which I mentioned we cover, probably 100 games a year.
Which sports? Which different sports?
Oh, there are so many.
All of them?
We're looking at spring right now because we're finishing up. So we're in playoffs for girls basketball. We have a game tomorrow, which is the March 1st. I know this will air a little bit later. And then boys basketball playoffs. And then we're going to hit spring starting April 10th. And we're going to have baseball, softball. And we're going to do only select games. We can't do all of those.
Right.
Girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse, and for the first time, approved by the high school league, boys volleyball will be
a new sport.
A new sport. So we've been broadcasting it for a couple of years, but this will be the first year that it is part of the Minnesota State High School League.
Very good. And during the winter, I imagine, hockey games, the Eagan Wildcats hockey games, both boys and girls teams?
Yep. So we cover boys and girls basketball, boys and girls hockey, a couple boys swim and dive meets, and wrestling during the winter. And fall is football, boys and girls soccer, and I think that's it for that one.
And Eagan
Yes.
TV.
I had to think on that one. I was like, winter's the one that's crazy. We do 6 sports in winter
Oh my
and only
goodness.
3 in the fall.
You're just not busy enough, Josh. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Too much time on your hands here. I
Girls
think.
swim, that was the one I missed. I
Girls
knew there was
swim.
one more. Apologies to the girls swim team.
Well, and the big one, we actually have a partnership with the Minnesota Aurora.
That's what I was gonna ask.
We are their production team. We're going on, this is our 4th season
Correct, yeah.
with them. So that season usually runs about May, June, July. So we're in the process of ramping up for that, and we're really excited for that as
So
well.
a question I'd like to ask either of you, how far in advance do you schedule programs?
Yeah.
Because you have to put together the roster and the schedule and know where you need to have your equipment if you're using the mobile equipment or if we're here in studio. How far in advance does the schedule get developed?
Depends on the event. Like Aurora, their schedule's public now, but I've known it for a little while. So we have, what's that? End of May it starts. So it was mid-February that I started planning it, and that's, not even including like starting the conversations with them and kind of how we want to, make the shows look this year and everything like that. For high school sports, it's about 3 months out. As soon as those schedules are available, I get them locked down of what games we want to do, and then kind of check with booster clubs and parents and our crew. And so, it's I'm kind of always living in the future, I like to say. Sometimes, Hailee will ask me something, I'm like, no, it's April. And it's like, no, it's not even March. And it's like, oh, because I'm already thinking about spring sports and all of that.
And when you take the truck out to cover a sports event in a location outside of Eagan, just curious, what's the farthest you've ever gone with the mobile truck to cover a sports event?
A recent example is we actually covered the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame Museum.
Eveleth?
Not in Eveleth, but we covered it in Lakeville at Lakeville South's arena.
Okay.
And
yeah.
it was the U of M versus Bemidji women's game. And so that was a pretty big event. We usually don't go outside of Eagan or Burnsville for the most part.
Pretty much staying in the South Metro here.
Yeah, we stay in the South Metro for the most part. I don't think we've done anything in the North Metro or anything, but probably, going down and doing some of those Lakeville games is probably the furthest the truck goes.
Because I was wondering if an Eagan team, for example, got invited to an invitational, say in Duluth or northern Minnesota, is that something you would go and cover too?
It really
hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. I'm not opposed to it, but it depends on what the event is. We don't cover a lot of the tournaments and stuff, but if it was state championship or something like that, we would be very interested.
Yeah. So I think I'd like to give our viewers a look at our control room and mention some of the other people. Nobody individually puts a show on Eagan TV. It takes a number of people, both paid staff such as yourselves, but also we rely on volunteers. And give us a look here, Josh, at our control room and tell us just briefly about some of the equipment, what it takes to get a program like Access to Democracy, or any other program for that matter, up on Eagan TV.
Yeah, so if we can take a look at the control room in there. There they are. Everyone say
There
hi.
they are. Give us a wave there.
So
let's start with introductions. Tell us who we're looking at in there.
So we got Mary Dahlke. I like
Director.
this is great. Carter Bain, and he's a volunteer and also works for us too. Kevin Miller, and Kevin is full-time with Eagan Television as well. And there is Sharon, who's maybe going to wave.
Right.
And then Bill Raker, who's another host of Access to
And his
Democracy.
wife, Wanapa, who's visiting us today. Hi, Wanapa and Bill.
Thank you. I have not been introduced to her, so I appreciate that.
Oh, well, there we go.
Nice
yeah.
to meet you from here. And so they're all running different positions. So we have an audio board, a lighting board. Lighting's pretty easy to set up. You turn it on, but just in case something goes wrong, it's in the back.
Right.
And then we have the switcher where the director sits and actually punches the cameras, and you can see they keep changing.
Right.
And then we have the recording station and audio, and Sharon's running audio today. She does a great job.
And you guys do such a wonderful job for our program and the others. Very rarely do we run into technical difficulties, so to speak.
That you know of.
That we know of, yeah. Sometimes you can correct those things in post-production. But, oh, by the way, I should also mention someone who's not in the control room today who's very important to our program, Avi Mashar, who is the person that helps us with post-production in terms of getting our program on the Access to Democracy website and getting us up on social media, too. He's been with our program for many, many years, a good friend of ours, and does a tremendous job. So to all of the folks in our control room who are both paid staff and our volunteers, we're very thankful to have all of them, because the fact of the matter is we couldn't do a show like this without all these people. It takes everyone to make it possible for us to go on the air.
Yes.
And I love that the Access to Democracy team has remained so strong for 25 years. We just celebrated the 25th anniversary back in September, and we've got some 3,000 episodes at this point, something like
That's
that.
right.
And so
Over 25 years.
right, and being able to do that and having such strong support from the volunteers, you know, they love what they do and they keep coming back. And so we just are really happy to be able to have these community producer-led programs here at the station.
We're very fortunate to have that, and just the variety of program that you have too, aside from the sports events. I want you to say a word. We're down to about 6.5 minutes here in the program, but say a word about how Eagan Television covers local government, because it's really important. Part of your mission is to keep the community informed of what their local government is doing, specifically city council and that. Say a word about how Eagan TV covers local government.
Yeah, so government transparency is obviously a very high priority for us. We do cover the meetings, as I mentioned earlier. They're usually on Tuesday nights, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 16. So all the meetings that we cover is the city council work session, planning commission, parks and rec, sustainable Eagan advisory commission. So we live stream them on the website, on the city's website. You can find links on there. We also have it on the TV channel as well.
I wanted to ask you about the fact that historically local residents have been able to submit ideas to Eagan TV for programs that they might like to see. Say a word about the guidelines. I think you mentioned earlier you have some guidelines, but you used to offer classes in television, creating a TV show for Eagan TV. And is that still the case, or do we no longer have classes, or are they coming back?
Sure. So when the pandemic hit, we kind of took a bit of a hiatus as far as outreach opportunities go. And then once we were kind of ready to go back, it was time to make the move. And so then last year was really focused on the move out of Thomson Reuters and moving into Eagan City Hall, getting the partnership started here at the studio. And now in 2025, we're ready to get back into those, offering those outreach opportunities. So we actually have a podcasting class that we are starting with the Parks and Recreation Department that's geared towards teenagers. So we're looking forward to launching that in March. We're also bringing back a favorite, video camp. That's for kids ages 11 to 14. We're having that the first week in August 4th through the 7th. Registration is open now for both of those courses. So we're kind of starting off small, kind of sticking to what we know with the video camp and something new with podcasting, and just kind of evaluating and assessing what are the current needs for the community and what kind of resources and tools are they looking for.
And so if residents are interested in learning more about those upcoming classes, they can go on the city website?
Yes, so the city will share our content.
City of Eagan, yeah.
And they'll also share it on their Facebook page, so oftentimes you can find it on there. You can find it on our social media channels. You can find it on Discover Eagan, which is the Parks and Recreation catalog. Multiple outlets that you can find all of that information on.
Mm-hmm. How many different shows does Eagan TV produce? Do we know? Like, I mean, aside, not separate sports events, but like Access to Democracy, Behind the Game, Writer's Corner. How many other shows do we have on the roster right now?
So those are the three main ones. In the past, we've had a couple others, and that's kind of a, it's a big haul trying to put on these programs, making sure you have a strong team that can support that. And so over the years, we've had shows kind of come and go. Again, kind of before the pandemic, we were seeing a lot more of that. We had a nature show, we had another talk show, we had
cooking shows. Ever do a cooking show?
No cooking
shows.
shows.
Not equipped for that.
Yeah.
You need electricity and gas and all that.
Yeah.
And our studio was just not equipped to.
Might be a problem.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Josh, I want to circle back to you because I think I've known you for several years now since I've been working with Access to Democracy. You have a very interesting background. You mentioned your interest in screenwriting, and you've also been a director of films. Say a word about that. How many films have you written screenplays for or directed?
I don't even have a number. I started making films when I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Like Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, I guess. I hope so. And so, I mean, on the little camcorders and all of that, but professionally, I've probably done over a dozen that have been short films. I actually have a feature film that is wrapping up post-production right now, so it's come out later this year. And I'm so fortunate because the city of Eagan has an opportunity for me to take my love of cinema and film and filmmaking and put it into the Eagan Art Block Short Film Festival, which is going into its 8th year, I believe? Yeah. This September. Entries are open now, so people can go to Film Freeway and submit there. But I mean, it's such a great event because I get to see friends and colleagues come out, and we get to really showcase local talent. And this year we're open to the whole U.S., so it's been
my goodness,
it's a lot of fun, yeah.
And I'm guessing that this community of local filmmakers and screenwriters such as yourself, you probably all pretty well know each other too, right?
It's a very small but very loyal community, yeah.
Select community of talented individuals. Well, I just think that's tremendous, and I want to say on behalf of Access to Democracy and our program, how thankful we are for your support of our program over these many years, for the work that you do, and Kevin Miller and Carter and the volunteers we've had over the years. We couldn't do it without you, and we're very thankful, and we think it's a great asset to our community, but also to other communities around the state that watch our program and others in some 35 different communities all over Minnesota. It's really a great thing. Hailee Boston, manager of Eagan Television, and Josh Sibley, community producer for Eagan Television. Thank you for being our guest today on Access to Democracy. And to our viewers, thank you for watching our program.